Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the 2024 COVI Lecture Series. I'm Debbie Ingalls, Director of COVI here at Brock University and your host this afternoon. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. George Soleas. George is President and CEO of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, or the LCBO, if any of you weren't aware of the stature of George here. And the LCBO is the world's largest one of the world's largest retailers of beverage alcohol. George joined the LCBO in 1997 as Director of Quality Assurance after serving more than 11 years with the Canadian wine industry. And for all those OEVI students that are listening in, you know, George's background in analytical chemistry and all those high throughput instruments that we use in the industry to do measurements on wine, you know, George, you know, really got his training in that area and brought that forward to the LCBO. After serving more than 11 years in the Canadian wine industry, he took on progressively senior leadership positions until he was named President and Chief Executive Officer of the LCBO in 2016. George's diverse education includes a Bachelor of Science from McMaster University, a diploma in enology from UC Davis, as well as MSc and a PhD through the University of Toronto. He remains committed to higher education through professional affiliations with McMaster University, our own Brock University, and the University of Guelph. George has been affiliated to COVI since way back when we started the actual program and the Research Institute itself. George completed executive training through the new CEO workshop at Harvard Business School, the Breakthrough Program for Senior Executives at the International Institute for Management Development in Switzerland, the Rotman Institute of Corporate Directors Program, and received his ICD designation. His widely published research focuses primarily on the biochemical aspects of beverage alcohol constituents and their effects on humans. He is also the recipient of such awards as the Ontario Imported Wine Spirits Beer Association Industry Partnership Award, that's a mouthful, the Greek Wine Industry Award, the McMaster Alumni Gallery Award, and he was appointed to the Gerard Saint-Emilion and Chevalier de Tastavin wine organizations, as well as the keepers of the Quake. Board members include the Retail Council of Canada. So please join me in welcoming George as he explores the shifts in the market in consumer preferences as well as sales and how the LCBO is navigating the latest wine trends. So.
I didn't realize that Debbie was going to read all of that. But thank you very much for inviting me to join you today, and it's always a pleasure to come to CCOVI, Brock University, but also to my old stomping grounds. I spent 11 years of my life here with Andrew Peller and Hillebrand and a number of other wineries, also part of the Canadian Wine Institute, and really very much involved with VQA and the many other things that the industry has done to get us to where we are today. Very proud of it and very proud of the industry as well. I'm always excited to come back to the university. As you said, I'm very passionate about education, definitely about my own education. I've always said that if you want to be successful, stay close to your education. It doesn't mean that you do the same thing, but you can continue learning until you die, really. And I learn everything. I learn anything every day, for sure, whether it's a position of the CEO or someone who started in quality assurance at the LCBO. It has been a fantastic journey, for sure. And when people ask me about my journey, I always say that it's been anything but a straight line at the LCBO. I moved around. I basically have done everything. Definitely my research was always focused on the good and the bad effects of alcohol. As we all know, alcohol is a double-edged sword. My publications, most of them are actually focused on the anti-carcinogenic and anti-atherogenic effects of red wine, polyphenols, and alcohol. Now, I'm not here to talk to you about that, and I know that you guys have had some fantastic lectures during this series of lectures, and I'm hoping that I'm going to add to that also. I just want to make sure that how many of you are really involved in the wine industry here? Everybody involved? Fantastic, yeah, so you're in the right place. I also want to thank all those that are attending virtually. I'm hoping that this is open to, yeah. Now, Debbie said that the LCBO is one of the largest. The LCBO is actually the largest retailer of alcohol, beverage alcohol in Canada, and probably the largest in the world. Now, we are competing with Costco at that level, but I think that we're doing much better than Costco in terms of, you know, the selection of products that we have and how we retail our products. Now, being the largest in the world comes with a certain responsibility, and we take that very seriously. We want to make sure that as being the largest, we can influence in a way that is good. And that's one of the reasons why we created the spirit of sustainability at the LCBO that I'm going to touch on a little bit later, which is about good people, good planet, and good partnerships. And I would say it's the 3 Ps, and people say, well, where's the profit? And you know what? If you can get those 3 Ps right, it equals profit. And we've proven that since we started that in 2018, that it is, if you can get those 3 Ps right, which is taking care of the people, taking care of the planet, and making sure that you have the right partnerships, you can't fail. So I'm gonna use my time today to take you through some numbers at the LCBO, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about opportunities and what is facing the industry today. And I can tell you that the industry is having a lot of challenges today, and we'll talk about that. So I'll give you some of the financial business performance indicators that and am I at the right place? Yes, I am. Our year-end, our financial year-end is March 31st, so it's actually coming up in a couple of weeks from now, so you're going to appreciate how busy it is in terms of budgeting and in terms of forecasting and closing books and all of that. So these numbers are good up to the end of January, which is period 11. We have 13 periods in a year, and that also includes the holiday season, which is, you probably don't know this, but 20% of our annual sales actually happen during the holiday season, which is November, December. It's huge. It's about $1.5 billion in sales. You all know that the LCBO does about $7.6 billion in sales a year, of which $2.6 billion is actually transferred to you, to the taxpayers of Ontario, to the government of Ontario. And that's money that is used for healthcare, education, infrastructure projects. I'm hoping that your university gets some of that money for some of the infrastructure projects that you have, and so on and so forth. So let me dive into some of the numbers, and let's look at the sales growth by product category. On a value basis, when I say value basis, we're talking about dollars. Spirits, wines, and beer are actually losing share to a category called ready-to-drink, or the RTDs. I call them the synthetic products. Those products are actually stealing share from all these other 3 categories. Now, RTD is leading the financial growth, up 8.6% year to date. But it should be noted that momentum is really stabilizing in recent years. That number used to be 15, 16, 18, 20%. So even that number is actually stabilizing right now at the 8.6%. Wine is slightly down compared to last year, with growth consistent with the spirits and the beer categories. Now, the volume tells a different story. I was just talking to someone now about volume. Really, we're seeing steep declines of just over 25 million liters this year, which is an almost a 5% decline year to date. So last year, liter sales was up at $523 million. We're talking only about wine. This year's liters sales are about $489 million, a significant drop in sales. Beer sales are seeing the largest decline of the categories in volume sales. They're down 15.5 million liters, or more than 6%. Now, a lot of that is driven by the domestication of some beers. Corona, for example, Stella, they're now domesticated. They're produced in Canada. So that sort of comes out of the LCBO sales, and it's the beer store sales. Now, there are other marketplace challenges for beer as well. Spirits is trending down 4.5%, but it's holding its share. And RTD is the only category seeing volume growth up to 2.1% and an increase in share of almost 1.3%. So really, the RTDs is the only thing that is really growing right now. Now, don't despair. I've seen this before, things will change, but this is what it is right now. Digging specifically into wines, because I think most of you are really interested in wine. Wines are performing relative to our plans so far, but we're currently trending just below planned sales by 1% and just behind last year. Now, we had a lower plan. That's the reason why we are almost at plan. Liters are down 6.8%, and I'm talking about all wines, while net sales per liter is up 6.8%. Now, generally across the various wine portfolios, we're seeing a shift from reds to more refreshing styles of wine, such as white wine and sparkling wine as well. Consistent with current trends, customers are gravitating towards spirits and RTDs, RTD category, with wines overall seeing a share loss of about 50 basis points. In European wines, sales are just slightly above last year by 0.5% and just off plan. Now, we're seeing significant growth in European sparkling wines. This is led by Prosecco and Prosecco Rosé, some of the Italian white wines, both in general list as well as in vintages, and a lot of it is driven by Pinot Grigio and some of the indigenous varieties of Italy, as well as general list Portuguese red and white wines. Within the sparkling category, we are seeing significant declines in champagne, which is very, very unusual. Champagne has been growing really nicely the last few years. This is the first year that we're seeing significant champagne sales declines. And we see customers trading down into other sparkling sets to prioritize value. Italian reds have also been hindered notably by heavier styles. People are moving to lighter wines. So Amarone, Ripasso, some of the Tuscan wines, and some other subsets are not doing as well. Rosé wines also struggled this year. Now, I know we overbought last year a lot of rosé, but nevertheless, we saw price increases in the rosé category, and we have seen people shying away from rosé wine. So that's concerning. We also see challenges in both Italian and French reds, and they have also persisted due to significant price increases and customers shifting preferences to whites. We have seen, I would say that our average increase at the LCBO has been about 5.5% to 6%, way lower than the grocers, I can tell you that, but still that impacts a lot of people. Because remember, we're selling a product that people use their disposable income. And we're not selling eggs, bread, and butter and milk. So the first thing that goes when we have an economic slowdown is people trade down. They still buy their wine, but they're not going to buy that expensive wine that they were buying before. In New World wines, we are seeing a decline of about 1.6% to last year. Now, this softness is being driven by red wines, particularly in key categories such as California red and Australia red, driving significant declines as customer preferences shift towards lighter reds and whites. Positive areas within New World include key white varietals such as California and Australia Chardonnay, and of course the refreshing Sauvignon Blanc from Chile and New Zealand. The New Zealanders have done a phenomenal job in highlighting their Sauvignon Blanc worldwide and very focused in that area, and that's another reason why they're doing so well. In Ontario wines, continued normalization of the pandemic trends are persisting. VQA wines, including red, white, and rosé, are declining, but we are seeing growth in sparkling and ice wine sets. We are also dealing with the impacts of the short crop with several key SKUs out of stock. And this is largely impacting the VQA white segments. In international domestic blends, everybody knows what these international domestic blends are. We are seeing all sets in the positive. We previously had supply chain issues impacting our non-VQA sparkling set, but this has been resolved, it has improved, and we're now seeing positive trends in this area. If we look at sales over the past year, total domestic sales, inclusive of vintages, are just shy of the previous year at $486 million. That's just domestic Ontario. Most of this growth is coming from the international domestic blend portion of the portfolio as customers look for value-driven wines. These wines benefited from the economic situation we're in right now. VQA has declined compared to last year, due in large part to stock-outs as a result of the VQA short crop, and this has most significantly impacted the VQA wine segment. Some VQA highlights to note is that ice wine continues, as I said before, to grow with double-digit growth of 22%, and we're also seeing growth of about 21% in VQA sparkling with the vintage's new release program also. Looking at VQA wine trends, and these are LCBO wines excluding vintages by varietal and style. We see that white wine holds the largest share within VQA wines at 44.3%. And this area is losing share to rosé and sparkling as customers gravitate towards these styles of wine. Red wines, while declining in sales, are also taking share from white wines also. Now that I've kind of saturated you with a lot of numbers, and I hope that you don't think there's a quiz at the end, because there isn't. So let's move to some of the fun stuff, and that's the trends and opportunities that we're seeing. There are significant trends we see driving the business, and I will highlight 6 of them today. I'm sure there are many others. First, what we're seeing is lighter options within the portfolio continue to be the popular choice among customers as more Ontarians are looking to moderate their alcohol consumption. Whether it's wines with lower sugar or lower alcohol or no alcohol, we put all those in what we call lighter choices. And you probably saw an interview I did with Bloomberg. There's a lot of interest in this area by a lot of different people. Secondly, we are also seeing customers' taste preferences changing in wines with a shift away from heavier styles in all categories and gravitating towards fresher styles of wine. And this includes lighter reds, continued interest in rosés, but as I said before, rosé wine sales were challenged this year, and in particular sparkling and light whites as well. Another emerging area that we're seeing within wines is where we see blurring of the category lines with the rise in interest in the RTD, or ready-to-drink cocktails, and innovative formats. This trend is also an opportunity on the wine side of the business, where exciting cocktail-inspired flavored wines and spritzer styles in convenient formats are very appealing, especially to people like you guys, the younger people, right? So they are hitting the market, and they're hitting the mark as well for the younger generation, who a lot of them are choosing or are being recruited by the ready-to-drink category. Now, as mentioned earlier, we are seeing a shift away from the big, bold reds in favor of lighter reds. And this is a great opportunity for VQA suppliers to engage customers, as our cool climate naturally produces lighter reds and more elegant reds from varietals such as Pinot Noir and Gamay and so on. Another area that is becoming more and more important as the inflation stays around, it is at 2.8% today, which is not where the Bank of Canada wants it, and where the discretionary income becomes strained, is where customers are seeking more value for their money. We know that, I said to someone before, that the LCBO is a very good barometer of where the economy is going, and we've seen this for about a year now. People are gravitating to more value products, and they're trading down. And we see this in the basket. We measure the basket. We measure everything at the LCBO, not traffic, the basket, the value in the basket, and so on and so forth. So I can tell you that this is happening for sure. Reds and whites from Portugal and Chile, for example, are finding common ground with customers as they are exploring options offering quality and value, affordability. And lastly, alternative formats are in the rise with small formats, the 375 ml, but also the 1.5 liter and the 3 liter. So they're moving away from 750, and they're choosing either 375 because they don't want to consume the entire bottle, or they buy the larger bottle and they consume it over a period of time. And as I said, one of the most notable trends is the rise of small formats, particularly the 375 ml, which is growing 18% year over year. Again, this is very unusual. We've not seen this in the past. And customers are increasingly looking to moderate their consumption and seek use for new occasions where smaller formats fit the bill, I guess. Good. So I just want to double click for a moment on some emerging consumers, the LCBO younger customers. And research shows that moderation may be slow, but it is pervasive. And the younger generations are making different drinking choices today. Some of these may be slightly repetitive, as I talked about it before, and it ties into the trends in wine that I just spoke to. But it bears repeating, as the wine industry needs to take note of these as part of their strategic direction moving forward. And I was just in Expo in Wine Paris, and did an interview with a French journalist, and that's really very much, they're very interested in this area because, as I said, other areas are recruiting the younger consumers who are going to be the consumers of the future. Share of throat. There are many more developed beverage categories in the market today, over and above beverage alcohol. These energy drinks. You would think that people wouldn't be, wine consumers wouldn't be drinking these. Well, a lot of the younger consumers are moving to energy drinks, kombucha. Younger cohorts have much more choice as to what to drink. And so to win share of throat, it is much more competitive today, for sure. Yeah. Moderation. I'm sure that you've all seen the media reports on alcohol is not good for you. Maybe one drink a week is okay. And these are all recommendations, but not guidelines from certain groups that they feel alcohol is not good for you. I don't believe that there is a lot of science behind a lot of these reports, but they do influence and they do have an impact, a very significant impact on a lot of people. So between that and the economic situation, it's really impacting the volume that I talked about before. So I would say that suppliers need to factor in smaller sizes and low alcohol, perhaps de-alcoholized products, and innovate in this category as much as possible. I think innovation is incredibly important these days when things are not going in the right direction. This is also an opportunity for suppliers and trade associations to leverage our in-store tasting program to promote trial and discovery. I would say that liquid to lips, as we say, sells. And when we do tastings in our stores, and I think that your marketers, you know that when people visit wineries, there's a 30 to 40% lift in sales. We see the same at the LCBO. When you do tastings, people buy because we sell a product people like to touch, they like to taste. Yes, they buy online, but online is never going to be the same as other products when it comes to alcohol beverage. People want to come in the store, they want to browse, they want to look at it, they want to touch it, they want to talk to a product consultant or someone who knows about the product and to hear a little bit about what can I do with this, how can I pair it with what. So it's very important that the industry works with us to do tastings at the LCBO and to work together to promote the Ontario wines as much as possible. Pairing and different occasions, as I mentioned before, dinner plates are changing. There's more chicken or non-meat options today, and younger generations are not pairing wine as much with their dinners. They drink wine even with a snack or a dessert, and that's okay. But again, these trends are changing the consumption patterns. And also the cool and trendy factor is of high importance to younger cohorts and will drive their wine choices. For example, eye-catching packaging and the unique brand proposition are key to many of these customers. Now, multicultural. The younger demographic customer is highly diverse, so suppliers need to think about how we reach them. And I can tell you, Ontario is the best place to test that because of the diversity we have. And here's the other thing that I tell the industry quite often. We have a lot of immigrants that come into this country. Last year, I think we had almost 950, of which half a million came to Ontario. And yes, some people may not consume alcohol because of culture or religion, but a lot of them do. And it's an opportunity for our industry to highlight the domestic products and the country that they came to and how they can enjoy those products. So there are opportunities that we need to continuously think of how we can help the industry to do better. Now, I spoke about the spirit of sustainability before, the social impact platform that we have. So these environmental and social levers are over-indexing and very important to younger people. I think they're important to everybody, to be honest with you, but they do resonate with the younger cohorts. And this may not mean that they're willing to pay more. I don't think they are, but they want to know more about the product and whether you're using sustainable practices, are you respecting the people that produce these wines, and so on and so forth. I can tell you, that is real. That is definitely real. Okay, now, I always say that the LCBO doesn't produce products. We don't make wine, we don't make spirits,
but we do sell them. And as I always tell LCBO suppliers, we really facilitate the sale of products in our stores. We build these beautiful stores. They're best in class. I think they're the best in the world, by the way, because I visit a lot of regions around the world, and I'm very proud of the stores that we have here in Ontario. And we provide an inviting, crisp environment for people to come in, nice shelves. We display the products nicely. We have all kinds of different promotions. We have product consultants that are very, very knowledgeable, as well as our customer sales reps. So we do all of that to facilitate the product, the sale of the product, and to help tell the story of the suppliers, of the producers. So what we try to do is we try to talk to the suppliers and to find out what is your story so that we can tell the customer the story. And when it comes to sustainability, I think that's a very important area in terms of us telling the story of the suppliers. So I'm going to share how I think the industry working together with us can use these trends and insights to grow the wine business in Ontario. And I don't have a silver bullet, so I'm not going to tell you a lot of things you don't know, I think, but nevertheless, it's worth talking about. First, let me tell you the LCBO side and what we would like to do and what we'd like to continue doing for the industry. Our goal is to continue to elevate and support domestic and local VQA every day. Looking ahead to our 24-25 financial year, we will continue educating our staff and training. We have in-house education and product knowledge. We work with the industry. We bring our product consultants to the industry to visit the wineries, to taste the products. We will continue doing that, and even at a higher level, because we want to make sure that our people are well armed and well equipped to talk to the customers about domestic wines and domestic products. Since the restrictions of the pandemic were lifted a couple of years ago, it has been our goal to re-engage and educate our local Ontario wine country ambassadors in our stores with regular VQA educational content, and as I said, visiting wine country and providing selling tools and tips to drive VQA sales. When looking at recruiting new customers, we will continue to utilize our loyalty program. Our loyalty program is Aeroplan, which is a fantastic loyalty program, and use the data from that program to better understand the VQA customer and creating programs to attract new customers as well. It is, intelligence today is everything. Data is everything. And that's another reason why we're that this loyalty and the data and intelligence that we get from this loyalty is so incredibly important. Part of attracting new customers is tastings in our stores. As I mentioned before, Liquid to Lips is the best tool we have to convert customers into the VQA category. And I'm hoping that the many producers here in Ontario will take us up and come in the stores and work with us to do those tastings. Lastly, we're always looking for ways to optimize our VQA support programs to ensure we're getting the right products out in front of the right customers. And if you visit the LCBO stores, you'll see that the first thing you see in the store is the VQA shelves and the domestic products. I think we want people to, when they come into the store, to see that first and to be their first choice. And this obviously includes enhancing our Ontario Wine Boutique store program. We have quite a few of those in Ontario, and updating VQA-specific programs such as Go Local, a buyer's pick, local talent, and local finds to remain relevant to today's customers. On a macro level, there are two other areas I would be remiss not to speak about. The first is the upcoming changes in Ontario's beverage alcohol marketplace. I think that you probably heard the Premier announcing in December that they will be opening the sales of beer, wine, cider, and RTD to almost 8,500 new points of sale. And they're talking about more open and more competitive market. And this includes the ability for all private retailers who wish to sell beverage alcohol to do so, including more grocery and convenience stores, changes to the product assortment they can carry, including, as I mentioned, RTDs, and increased support for the local industry, the details of which really are still being worked out. We are not 100% aware of everything. And while significant, this announcement was not surprising, definitely not surprising to us, because the Premier has been talking about this for the last 5-6 years. They made it very publicly known that this is the intention that they had. Now, so this means that it's more competition for the LCBO. And you know, I always said to my people, competition is music to my ears, because the monopoly and the monopolistic mind creates complacency. And complacency is not good in business. So over the last 8 years, since I've been the CEO and since we've rolled out 450 grocery stores and another 400 LCBO convenience outlets, and any restaurant can sell beer, wine, ciders, and spirits as well, we've been able to compete very nicely. And to me, is a lever to challenge my people, to continuously raise the bar and to continuously transform and bring the customers back to the LCBO. And we've done very nicely. So we will still be the wholesaler for these new points of sale. We will be wholesaling to the convenience stores and the grocery stores, so on and so forth. So we want these people to do well, but we're going to give them a run for their money. We are going to continue raising the bar as the LCBO, which is an institution and a best-in-class organization, to bring people into our stores to buy those spirits that it's a point of differentiation, or to buy the vintages products, or to buy the VQA products. But the industry has an opportunity, though, at this point, to also put their products anywhere in these 8,500 new points of sale, so that they can capture some of these sales. So it is transformative. I think it's going to be challenging, but I see that as a fantastic opportunity for everybody to think about. Okay, I did mention the spirit of sustainability. The second area is really as a reminder of LCBO's social impact platform. Very, very proud of this. We started this in 2018. Everybody thought that it's going to be expensive, it's going to be time consuming, it's not the right direction, and yet it is actually one of the best things that we've ever done. It has helped us tremendously. In fact, when we hire people at the LCBO, one of the things that I do, if it's a director or not, is to actually talk to them. I don't interview people, but I talk to them. And I can tell you that every one of these people, when they talk to me, they tell me that sustainability resonates with them. And a lot of them are younger people, of course, they're not my age. And they just look at this as a foundation of the organization. It's something that makes the organization appealing for them to work for. And I can tell you that there are many customers that feel the same way with the products that they buy. So it really has become a way of life at the LCBO. People are looking at the sustainability, and they're thinking of diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity. They're thinking of what are we doing to save the planet. They're thinking about what are we doing for the communities we live in and we work in. How much money can we raise for the charities that we support, such as the Children's Hospital Foundations, the four foundations that we are supporting, or the United Way, or Camp Butch, or the Women's College Hospital Foundation, or how are we supporting institutions like yours, like Brock, or Niagara College, or George Brown, to work with to attract more women and more marginalized women into our industry. And I can tell you that we've supported a number of scholarships so far to bring a lot of that into light, which we're very, very proud of. And I can tell you, our people love these, and it does resonate with our people. It's another way. Look, as a government institution, we're not the best. We don't compensate people best, but we have programs and we have benefits that resonate with people, that attracts talent and retains talent as well. So, in closing, no, that doesn't work. Okay. So in closing, I'm going to offer a few personal reflections and key takeaways, and I'm going to highlight why I think that they're important. And I'm often asked as a CEO what really keeps me up at night. I do have a little grandchild that wakes up every night, but that's not the thing that keeps me up at night. In the case of wine, I would say that it is the impact of moderation that really worries me, as well as the economic and health reasons on wine consumption. There seems to be an attack or a stigmatization on alcohol and destigmatization of cannabis. And I think the industry needs to take note of that. And I'm not here to promote consumption of alcohol or to tell you what is moderation. But I think that the approach that the LCBO has always taken is think of moderate consumption. It is a personal choice. And you know your family history and you know your moderation. But I've always been an advocate of educating people rather than just labeling products or telling people what's good for them. And the industry has become a bit complacent in this area. And the other side is not as complacent. In fact, the other side is quite aggressive. So that's an area where I think we should work to make people understand that wine is an agricultural product. It's a natural product. It's been around for 5,000 to 6,000 years. It's food. That's why it's under the Food and Drug Act regulations of Canada. That it is something that can be enjoyed in moderation, and it actually could be fun. And I think we need to start doing this with the younger cohort, because those are the consumers of the future. So the industry needs to come together collectively and start speaking about some of these things. And also take away that sophistication factor. People think that, if you're going to drink wine, you have to know a lot about wine, and you have to be knowledgeable about wine. You have to be a sommelier and all of that. And in fact, here's an example. We have the vintages corners in our stores. And I can tell you, even our own people in some cases, they're afraid to go into that corner because they don't know as much. So we sort of opened that area. You probably see some of our new stores. We took the bulkhead out and opened it and made it into a corner, and it's part of the rest of the store. So we can eliminate that fear factor, that intimidation factor. I think it's important for us to talk to people about the fun of wine, produce some fun products. Some innovation is important, and to also make it relatable, inclusive, accessible, and affordable as well. The other thing that I see quite often, and it bothers me, is that people think that wine is actually high in sugar. And in fact, the majority of wines are dry. They're 2-3 grams per liter. And one of the reasons why we declare it on the label is because we want people to know that there's only 2 grams per liter. Maybe we should change that to how many grams per portion. That's a different story. But I think there is this perception that, oh, if I drink wine, it's too many calories. I'm going to drink this other synthetic stuff, which is the RTDs, which are loaded with sugar in some cases. And it's actually declared on the can or on the label that it is high in sugar. So again, it's easy for me to say that. I think that the industry needs to start thinking and talking about these things because it's important. We cannot be complacent. So finally, you can tell I've been around for a long time, and I've done a lot of different things, and I've seen these things happen before, and it's cyclical, and they come and go. So I wouldn't be worried about you know, a lot of these other than look for the opportunities. There are opportunities for the industry, for the LCBO, for the agents and the suppliers, and unless you talk about them, unless you discuss them, you're not going to be able to change them. So anyway, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm also happy to answer any of your questions. And anyone who's virtual as well, they're allowed to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was such an insightful talk. You've given us a lot to think about. So I'm going to start by just opening up the floor to questions. Does anybody have any questions for George?
You mentioned cannabis. Do you think LCBO has lost sales to cannabis? People switching alcohol to cannabis, or has cannabis somehow enhanced alcohol?
That's a very difficult question because we're not really measuring a lot of that, but it's a question that I'm always asked. My anecdotal evidence.
Is the question you're interested in getting an answer to?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't hide behind my finger and I don't stuck my head in the sand either. I mean, I want to know. I can tell you that these dry January and February, a lot of the people that are not consuming in January and February, they're actually using cannabis. So it's impacting sales. Maybe not as significantly wine, probably beer more. And we had seen this in the US from the beginning, that it was impacting beer sales, but not as much spirits and wine. But I think gradually it will cut into alcohol as well. Yeah. I don't have scientific evidence, and as a scientist, I'm always hesitant to give you information without the facts, but anecdotally, I think that's what's happening.
Okay, well, I'm a scientist researching cannabis sales, so maybe we should talk about it.
For sure.
George, just a comment through your talk, looking at all of those trends, you know, that we're seeing. I'm happy to report that a lot of the research that we've just been awarded research dollars or grants under review, we're looking at those lighter style wines, lighter style reds, more aromatic whites, lower alcohol, you know, wines. We've got a lot of research looking into you know, these areas. But one area as well, you touched on the sustainability aspect here. And a question that we have in terms of customers, and I don't know if you have insight onto this, it looks like sustainability is an important component to the customer. Do you think that will translate into packaging, like moving away from wine bottles to more sustainable packaging options? And will that a barrier for consumers, or are they looking to jump into that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the LCBO has done a lot in that area. And I'll tell you one area that we did is we created the Canada bottle, which is the lighter weight glass bottle. And that came to be through an opportunity. It was a problem when we said to people, and we're very pushy and insisted that, why don't you use Tetra Pak? Why don't you use alternative packaging? So they went to PET. And you know, it didn't work with consumers. It just didn't, it doesn't look good. It didn't resonate. People don't want to drink wine out of a plastic. But then at that point, I went back to, we have our largest, most automated distribution center out of Durham. We record everything. We know everything about every product that we convey in that warehouse. And we do about 110 million cases a year. So we looked at the stats of all of that and found out that lighter weight glass bottles have less breakage. And so we worked with the Ministry of Labor to see what's the ideal weight for our people to lift, which is about 13.5 kilograms from 22 kilograms. And we looked at the breakage rates because we don't want products to break on these very high-speed conveyors that we have in the warehouse. And we came up with a 420-gram bottle. By the way, bottles at 280 had lower breakage rate. But we work with glass manufacturers, we work with the industry, we're very collaboratively with the partners that we have, and we came up with what is called today the lightweight glass bottle. So that's a very creative approach to reducing our carbon footprint. we reduced our musculoskeletal injuries at the warehouse by 82%. Now, we've also introduced automation as well. And we put more in the cube, so the cube utilization of the truck is now much better. And it's much lighter for the people when they lift it on the other side. So all of that, really, people say, well, sustainability doesn't help the bottom line. It helps everything. It helps the bottom line. It helps to save the health and safety of people. So we are looking at alternative packaging for sure. And we are pushing our suppliers to come up with innovative solutions. So that was one solution that we came up with. But there are other solutions that are underway right now that I know that my kids, for example, who are all about sustainability, they try those things. So they're just not prepared to pay more at this point. But I think, or you know, people talk about organic wines, and so some people are prepared to, but I don't think we're there yet. The other problem with sustainability is there isn't a single definition of sustainability. We know what's organic, we know what's biodynamic, but when you talk about sustainability, someone thinks it's just the environment, someone thinks it's only the social component, and there isn't a single definition. I don't think there is going to be a single definition, so what we're doing at the LCBO is we're working with many regions around the world, including Ontario, New Zealand, Chile, California, to highlight their programs, because we think they're really good programs, but I don't want to set a certain level where everybody now is sustainable and we introduce greenwash.
Right.
So we need to be careful. There was a question there.
Yeah, that's me. Jen?
Yes. You had mentioned that ready-to-drink category seemed to be the most consistent in its growth most recently. You also mentioned it seemed to be a bit of an opportunity for products in other categories. And I was wondering if you could give us an example of one of the successes of another category, maybe wine, that's mimicked something in the ready-to-drink category that's been a success for you guys.
So we're starting to see that. So RTDs had double-digit growth for years. Some cases 18, 19, 20%. They're now down to about 8%. It's stabilizing. But we're now seeing wine producers getting in that category, producing lower alcohol flavored wines. And I think that's probably a good way of introducing a lot of these younger generation customers into the wine category. There are several products that are actually doing that right now. I was at Bean Expo, and I was talking to Gerard Bertrand. I don't know if you know Gerard. He's very innovative, and he had some wonderful products. Slightly lighter in alcohol, 9%, but beautiful flavor without adding flavors to it. That I think will resonate with the younger generation. If we have more and more of these products, I think that's one way of recruiting younger people into the wine category.
So then they move from the ready-to-drink into the wine category.
Right.
So it's my understanding all liquor and wine in Ontario, including BC, it's distributed by the Crown, the LCBO and UCL. So if you're an importer bringing in premium wines, is there a separate way you handle the wines in the warehouses as opposed to like the typical fashion that the Alton bucks the wine behind?
So domestic producers can actually go direct to restaurants or to these new points of sale, or they can actually go direct to our stores. All right? Yeah, that's domestic. Now, BC is not considered to be domestic because we import it from British Columbia, so we are the importer of record, so they can't go direct. But all Ontario domestic producers can go direct. So just to differentiate. Everything else, the LCBO is the importer of record. So we own the product when we order it, we bring it in, we warehouse it, we ship it to the stores or to the restaurants or wherever, and we put it on the shelf and we sell it.
So if I'm an importer bringing in like, say like Montrachet, like an expensive wine, does it go through the LCBO and just
I see where you're going. So between November and April, all of the products that we bring into the country, they come in reefers. They're temperature controlled containers, right? All of the vintages products that we sell, they come in reefers as well. So the Chassagne Rocher or the other lines that you're talking about, they come in reefers. So once they're in the warehouse, the high-end products, we have separate areas where we store those ones. Now, the reason because they could sit there for months, whereas the other ones are in and out. The inventory turns are way higher for those products than with the Sassicaris or the Romane Conti or all of the other.
And it's just wondering where that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
So you and I were talking before we started about special interest groups, and you alluded to it in your conversation about special interest groups aggressively promoting their agenda to not just reduce alcohol consumption, but to eliminate alcohol consumption around the world. I mean, they're very, very clear about this. And I just came from a conference in the States where this was a huge topic of conversation. I guess the question is, if these organizations, of which there are many, a lot of them are privately funded, the word Gates comes to mind, but you know, we won't mention names. How do you, as an industry, especially in Ontario, how do we organize to really counteract that pervasive attitude that alcohol is bad and that no one should be drinking any alcohol at any time, anywhere, because that's what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I may not be the right person to do that, to do as a CEO of the LCBO. Of course, going to talk about it. It's just like getting Juan Valdez to promote coffee. Not the right person to do it, right? And I've done a lot of that. When I was with the industry, I published, I mean, Deb knows a lot of papers on the benefits of alcohol, the red wine polyphenols, and so on and so forth. And that resonated. And we created a society where we're all publishing and talking about it. I don't see that anymore. All I see is the other side, talking about the negative effects. And a lot of that, if not everything, is based on epidemiological meta-analysis statistics, which everybody knows what the percent plus or minus error is on those analyses. It's not really science. So I think that the industry needs to get together and start talking about responsible consumption. That I always say that, responsible consumption. And I've said this to the industry time after time after time. If you don't speak about responsible consumption, it will backfire. We'll have the same situation as they had in Sweden with Systembolaget reporting to the Ministry of Health, and the less they sell, the better. So we don't want to get there. And I'm not here to promote overconsumption of alcohol or any consumption. I'm here to talk about, aside from what I talked about, moderate consumption, personal choice, and at the same time to talk about the negative effects as well. Sure, there are negative effects of anything, whether it is a tablet of Tylenol or aspirin or sugar or fat or alcohol. It's a double-edged sword. There is no doubt about it. But there are benefits when consumed in moderation, and there are socioeconomic issues when it's not, and health issues as well. But that's what the industry needs to do. I don't have a complete answer, to be honest with you, but I always talk about the responsible consumption and the benefit that you get from sitting down with a friend, sharing a bottle of wine with your meal and relaxing and enjoying. It's, I'm going to say something that maybe is controversial, but people talk about the fetal alcohol syndrome, right? And my daughter delivered 2 babies, and I've always said to her, don't consume alcohol, and she doesn't. But to be honest with you, most women don't find out that they are pregnant until the first trimester. So imagine if we were telling people, even 1 glass of alcohol is bad for you. Now you've got, that woman goes through the rest of her pregnancy with that anxiety that I consumed 1 glass of alcohol. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying you should be consuming when you're pregnant, but we also have to be careful as to how we present things. So anyway, it's a touchy subject that I try to stay away from it, but you get my example, right? As to where
Okay, one last post. One last question.
Thank you for the amazing presentation. Just in your opinion, do you think the label of the wine on the attractive bottle influences customer decisions to buy the wine bottle? Like when I talk about me, I went to the LCBO like a few months back and got a sparkling wine which had like a fancy bottle, but when I had a sip of it or maybe had like 2-3 glasses, I personally did not like it. And it was, I think, around 23-25 bucks. And I thought maybe might as well. I would have got my favorite bottle of wine, which is like 15 bucks, and might have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
So the package is the first thing you see, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about the wine, and if you're not a wine expert, when you're there shopping, you'll buy something that looks nice and it's appealing, and you're going to impress your friends at home, so you'll buy it, but you'll buy it once, and you're not going to buy it again. So I always tell people that the package is important, but what's in the package is also very important as well. So the liquid is also very, very important. It's no different than if you bought a bottle of wine and it's corked, and you don't know what TCA is. You're going to think that that's the wine. I'm not buying it again. That's why that's such a big issue. It's the same with the label. Labels are important. Having beautiful labels is very important. Having a beautiful package is very important. But the liquid has to be good as well. Otherwise, people will buy it once, and then, as you said, you're going to buy it again. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, George, a little token of appreciation.
Thank you so much.
From CCOVI for just a great job.
My pleasure.
And everybody, just a reminder, we're looking forward to next week, March 27th, where Melky Spodek, our entomologist here in the Institute, will be giving a talk on her research on lab trials of entomopathogens as a biocontrol treatment for grape mealybug. So I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you.